Yeah, so we're live for Salient Points number 32. That 10ish. We're close. We're close to the starting line here. Uh, welcome
I'm
to
gonna say no, we
welcome.
aren't.
Well, you know what? One of us earlier today did get into a slight fender bender. We did get a slight little accident. Everything was okay though. Everybody was safe. So I feel like that I'm still feeling some of that action, some of that adrenaline. So I think we're okay for Salient Points number 32. I'm your host, Carlos Macias, and I have my co-host over there on the other side.
Hello to everybody in the world. Dalan, hi. Dalan
Dalen Cook,
Kirkwood,
thanks
especially.
for joining me, Dalen. You know what? This week, I'm very proud of yourself. Everything is good, man. You set up all your news and everything. You're roaring, ready to go. You're like, "Where's Carlos? Where is Carlos?" So, anyways, but yeah. So, Salient Points is your weekly top 10 news breakdown where the points don't really matter, but they kind of do. And this is where Dalen and I mash our top news articles for the last week, and out the other end comes out a weighted top 10 of our favorites. So this week starting out, this is pretty high praise for this piece of news. So with 19 points is the Call of Duty Black Ops 4 reveal, or how I like to emphatically call it, the COD Blops 4. With the number 4, not Roman numeral I like they've been
Which is
trying to
wrong.
stylize it, which is wrong. But yes, it's just a straight up number 4 for our thing, COD Blops 4. So yeah, this last week they revealed the 3 different modes. They did the zombie mode, which is usually something we've talked about it before, Dalen. Anytime you're reusing assets, I'm just not down for that. But it looks pretty cool. It's set on the Titanic or something like that. But the big one that was kind of thrown out there, which was like, and this is the reason there's no single player. They did confirm this. Their battle royale mode called Blackout was announced. One of the big things was that they didn't really discuss the player count, but there was a Wedbush securities analyst Michael Pachter on Twitter did mention this. He says, "quote My understanding is that the Call of Duty game engine allows only 32 players at once, set up for 16 on 16 team play. So betting it's a 32-person deathmatch. I understand Battlefield's Frostbite engine allows 64. So that's one of the interesting little wrinkles to it. The trailer that they showed was like they showed it to be pretty massive. They even said it's going to be on land, sea, and air battles, all that good stuff. And the single player, no, it was confirmed that it's not going to be there, but they did say that there's going to be specialist solo missions, which are going to be set in familiar multiplayer maps. And Treyarch co-studio head Dan Bunting told Eurogamer, going back to the very beginning of Black Ops 4 development, we never had set out to make a traditional campaign. He goes on, but I feel like I'm rambling at this point, Dalen. He's basically saying we didn't have a campaign plan, which is contrary to what we have heard, and I believe we talked about it last week, was that they ran out of time to work on the campaign mode. But my question to you, Dalen, are you excited that these guys are finally dipping their toes into the battle royale mode, and the fact that there's no single player is confirmed? Is that a big deal?
What I'm more surprised about is that they didn't actually do this earlier, because there was actually a game a long time ago I used to play on PC. I'm sure people remember it, Battlefield 1942. And that was a bit of an open world map, kind of like this new Call of Duty's idea that they're coming up with. And I'm thinking to myself, man, why didn't they do this a long time ago? They know Battlefield.
Well,
They've been battling Battlefield for the longest time.
well,
They could have went back and looked at some of the games and said, let's take that idea and make
but
it better.
Battlefield. Well, the thing is, Battlefield. The whole thing came out of battle royale, right? Like PUBG, and the fact that they, and you could say H1Z1, and PUBG grew out of that. And it's funny that H1Z1 is finally coming out and it's releasing on the PS4 for free. So we gotta check it out, Dalen. But they hadn't popularized that mode, man. It wasn't a thing. Yes, there was 64-player battles. I mean, we used to play in high school, right? We even used to go to a place called Net Zone, where it was kind of an internet cafe, and it was all local play with some online people. So we set up a server to play, but it wasn't like this, right? It wasn't last man standing. So now that, Call of Duty is like, we're going to jump on the bandwagon. We're going to throw this in there. And guess what? We didn't have to make a campaign this time around, because it's expensive, man. It's expensive to make a single player campaign. And honestly, even though I'm going to miss it, it's one of those things where it's like, it's expensive, and I don't think they get the return on their investment necessarily, right? I mean, they have all the facts and all the stats saying that people sometimes don't even jump into that campaign. They go straight into multiplayer. They don't even touch the single player. And usually we get like a 4.5, 5 hour campaign. And I'm pretty sure to them, they're like, well, we're diverting assets to that instead of making just better multiplayer. But honestly, I'd rather have a single player. But you know, I don't know about you, Dalan. Are you don't play the Call of Duty games though all that much though, right?
Well, I used to play the Call of Duty games, but when I think about it, even though they're not doing a full single player campaign mode, with them having what I'm going to actually refer to as episodes for each of the characters, that actually sounds like an interesting concept for me, because then you don't just get one big story, especially the way that Call of Duty or even Battlefield doesn't focus on a specific character. They have this whole mashup of characters. Now, with Call of Duty doing it this way, if it's in episodes, I could focus on multiple stories and get to enjoy each character and just enjoy them that much more. Honestly, I think they should do that on Overwatch. That way, we actually get an idea.
But I think you might be alluding to, you know, what they did with Battlefield 1, right, where they have sort of these little vignettes or like little story, you know, moments. But it's not gonna be like that, man. It's here. You're I don't know, whatever class, right? We play Destiny, right? Let's say a hunter equivalent in Call of Duty. Here you go from point A to point B, take this car to here, and it's just gonna be basically the regular multiplayer, and here you go. So there's not gonna be any cutscenes, there's not gonna be anything like that. The best we could hope for is maybe something close to like Rainbow Six Siege, where you have the different classes and they sort of have a loose story to it, but you know, unless that's not what you're referring to what they did with Battlefield 1, for example. But don't expect too much, man, from these specialist solo missions. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, then I won't expect too much from it, but I was thinking something closer to Battlefront. The Star Wars Battlefront 1, they had the little episodes that they had for their little extra campaign thing, but instead they can focus on one character at a time. Each one is its own episode, and that would be entirely awesome.
Which, if that's where your expectations are, then fine. I'm happy to see what they come up with as far as their solo ambitions for this game. Because really, man, it's Battle Royale, it's zombie, it's the regular multiplayer people have come and love, and they're gonna charge us $60 for it. Which, you know, I'm not one to say if it doesn't have single player, it's not worth $60. It's just like, to me, it's less of an incentive to try it. But I'm down. I'm down to mess with some Battle Royale, Call of Duty style, man. I'll mess with it, I suppose. I guess I won't be happy about it. I won't be happy about it. I'd rather have a cool little single player mode campaign to play with. But
well, like I said, multiple. Would you be okay with multiple single player episodes? Like, you have a character. Oh, actually, a better description would be, what was it? Resident Evil Outbreak. They had an episode for each type of character, right? They each had their own story that was going on, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, even with that, I played a little bit of that one, but even that, and that game was terrible. Thank you for bringing up those bad memories. But too much out of this, man. Honestly, I think it's just one of those things where it's like they're just throwing whatever multiplayer maps, go to point A to point B, turn this and turn that in, a little Smuggler's Run action or something. But
all right, then I'm gonna say Activision.
I think we're not gonna get much from it.
Listening. I don't care. Activision, EA, listen to me. Do episodes for these characters.
They don't got the time, man. I mean, you know what? Unless they're able to stretch it out, but honestly, they would have talked about it. I think they would have already mentioned it. You know, they would have been, okay, so we got story packs planned and going forward. But, you know, I mean, I hope they do that. Then I'd be happy for you to get this. I feel like you deserve it. I feel like you deserve it, but I don't think it's going to happen. But, you know, the reveal's cool. At least they set their expectations right, and now fans know what they're getting. And it'll be interesting to see, you know, in the fall, how much it affects sales, if it even affects sales. Maybe once and for all, I guess this is what I lament, right? Once and for all, this is going to be like one of those things where it's like nothing needs single-player campaigns. As long as you have these tent poles, right? As long as you have a Battle Royale, multiplayer, and a zombie mode, you're good. Reusing assets, as long as you can reuse assets. Like, you know, I was about to cuss, but so yeah. So sure,
you know, I'm sure in the future it'll evolve into something else that people get hooked with.
You know what? I was also contemplating that this might be sort of a stopgap thing. I know, you know, the studio head, what's his name? Bunting said that we didn't necessarily plan a campaign, but I'm thinking, they had sort of a campaign. They're like, you know what, we're gonna scrap it. We're seeing this battle royale thing. Let's just dedicate time to that. So maybe it's a stopgap, and maybe every other Call of Duty we get a campaign, which would kind of still suck, but at least we still get a campaign every other year. But we'll see.
If they do that, they better be some good campaigns. If we gotta wait for them,
we might get better campaigns. I don't know. The last few campaigns haven't been that amazing, so maybe.
Well, that's because they've been like one after the other, and very cookie cutter. So, with that being said, I'm gonna actually move on to the next stop that we have. So at 12 points. I wanted to talk about the Xbox's new adaptive controller. It's coming out later this year. It's going to be $100. It basically looks like a small joystick that you can actually use for like a gaming console, but it's not necessarily. It's hard to actually just say it outright. So I actually came up with a description for it, being that it's 11 inches long, 6 inches wide, and it's got 2 large circular pads on it. Next to it's got the D-pad, the Xbox button, start, all the other stuff, all those nice little buttons that you have right there, with the exception that it has nothing like R2 or X or anything like that. Instead, at the very back of this thing, it basically looks like a switchboard, and it's awesome. Because for handicapped people or people with disabilities or disabled, like they have a missing hand, or they got into an accident and they lost their motor control, or they were just born with it, whatever it might actually be, people have always actually tried to find ways to modify controllers to be able to actually play these games on these systems. Because I've seen people modify some crazy stuff in order to play the 64. But I'm not
including a nunchuck, right? That you'll be able to plug into that. So so it's going to be a multi-use device. All these kind of makeshift devices that you can plug
now,
into.
You're saying just a nunchuck. It's not just a nunchuck. At the back of this thing, it has 19 3.5 millimeter ports on the back side that you could plug anything into.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The nunchuck would be one of them, one of many options, right? That you can
you can put in the nunchuck. You could probably put in an electric screwdriver that you had hooked up to a cord with a 3.5 millimeter thing. That as long as it has a button, it'll probably work. Whatever it might actually be. And then those pads, they're not touch pads, but they're very light sensitive. So you can easily click them, and it's basically a button. Every time you click it, it makes a different noise, depending on where you're clicking it at. So it's even for sound-sensitive people, and I thought that was awesome. And I was thinking to myself with this thing, if regular people bought this, aside from disabled people, I'm wondering how they're going to do fighting games with this thing. I was just thinking, man, that'd be crazy to watch people play games.
Well, I think in the video, they showed people playing all types of games, right? They showed playing racing games, maybe they didn't show fighting games. I think they showed they showed all kinds of different games, shooters. So this is actually a really cool thing, man. And it's one of those things when I looked at it, I was like, man, it's kind of, well, they're not selling consoles, so they got to do something. But it's besides from that, it's just an awesome thing, right? That they're bringing to the world, that it's people that are disabled, like you were saying, either born with it or they got into an accident or whatever it is, and they lost use of their motor functions. It's kind of an awesome thing that Microsoft is doing that Sony hasn't come up with. And maybe it's because they're sort of in second place, where they're like, you know what, let's just do cool stuff. Let's just not worry about trying to beat Sony or anything like that. This generation, they can have that. And this is one of those things where, like, you know what, Microsoft is stepping up, man. This adaptive control. And it's things like, if you guys get a chance, go ahead and watch the video where they introduced it, where it shows people have been doing makeshift controllers. Like the one thing that I mentioned was a nunchuck. So you'll be able to plug in anything into the back of it as long as it's compatible, right? But it doesn't even have to be like Microsoft endorsed or anything like that. They just give you the option. As long as you can make it plug into the back of the controller, or to the sides, or wherever it is, you can use it. So I think it's pretty awesome, man. I think it's awesome of Microsoft doing it, and I think it would be smart of Sony to follow suit with their own thing, so it can, gaming should be a thing. I actually, you know what, to be honest, I'm not the most sensitive person, Dalan, but I got a little teary-eyed at the end of that video, where I think they showed 2 brothers or 2 cousins, or 2 relatives, and they were playing games together, and it looked like they were able to play on the screen like competitive, or at least keep up with each other, even though they were using different input devices that now with this adaptive controller, it could just come together in a beautiful way.
Yeah, and on top of that, one thing I actually wanted to slightly correct you on is they didn't just up and decide, hey, we need to make something for the disabled. It was actually a situation where they went to a contest. It was actually a technology contest. And while they were there, they realized that there were a lot of people trying to make things for disabled people.
Well, yeah, they've been doing it. They've already been doing it, right? All of these contests, it's been happening for the longest time. This adaptive controller it's a way for Microsoft to sort of standardize it, but it's not the end all be all, right? You could still, whatever people have created already should, as long as you set up the 3.5mm jack or whatever, it will be compatible, so it doesn't have to be officially released by Microsoft. Like, okay, you created this sort of thing that based on your disability, your hand works like this or it doesn't work like that. This controller is perfect for that.
Well, even if they don't have a hand, they could have just the ball joint, because I've seen that before, where I've seen people actually try to play with just the ball joint of their wrist, or they'll be trying to play with their tongue or something like that. They'll be playing with their feet, and this controller actually gives them the real chance to actually do all this.
Well, yeah, it's what I'm saying. It makes it easy. It's sort of standardize it, but doesn't standardize it to the point where you can't do anything. You can only do what's on the controller. It gives you options. It gives you beautiful, beautiful options, which is something I think people don't really.
Beautiful options.
Which is something like if you're able-bodied, you don't really think about that much, right? Which we're lucky.
Beautiful mind moment right there, Carlos.
Well, it's just we're lucky, right? We're lucky in a lot of ways that we're able-bodied, and it's kind of like you don't never think of these things. But it's awesome that Microsoft is like, look, we did think on this. We are thinking of other people, and here we go. This is it. So anything else, Dalan, before we move on?
I think that was the bulk of the story.
It's pretty awesome.
Microsoft golf clap.
A little golf clap. I'll give them a golf clap. So the next one. So that's the beginning of something. Maybe we talk about the end of something else. But with we'll bring it down a little bit. With 11 points, we're going to talk about PlayStation Vita's future. So Sony said that it plans to, quote, to end all Vita game card production by close of fiscal year 2018, which translation means that's March 31st, 2019. Developers were told that final purchase orders should be entered by February 15, 2019. That's according to US Gamer. And there's a small boutique shop. I don't know if you've heard about it before, Dalan, but they make they're called limited run. They make limited runs of physical copies of Vita games. And they actually said on Twitter, they said, quote, if you're one of the many who have asked, we cannot comment on speculation, rumors, or leaked news, but we currently have other 30 physical PlayStation Vita releases in the works, and every single one of them will release just fine. And to that, of course, it's like, well, of course it's fine. You still got till February 15th to purchase all this stuff. So, but I don't know, Dan, you feel like this is the final death stroke, definitely, for the little system that could, which was released in 2012.
No, I think the issue now is that even though Vita is still being supported by PlayStation in a way, it's the fact that with PS4 and the PSVR out, Vita's not getting as much attention as it used to. I mean, now we have the Switch. The ultimate. Well, hold on, let me say my piece.
All right, continue. All right.
Being that right now, Switch is like the ultimate portable video game system as of right now, whereas Vita was for a short period of time. And now if anybody's going to play the Vita, it's going to be like smaller games. And for the most part, people are just downloading those digitally. At this point, it's like Sony would be losing money if they continue to print out physical cartridges. So it's actually a smart move for them, and they can continue to use their digital.
This year, it wasn't like the Switch came out like, ooh, we got to shut it down. No, they had been not messing with PlayStation Vita stuff. It was kind of like they kind of brushed it under the rug, right? And it's one of those things, we're not going to promote it. We're not going to make any new games, because the last significant game was, what was that game? The game that you had a death sentence or something like that? You know what I'm talking about, right? I think that was the last significant game that came out, which was what, maybe 2014, maybe at the end of 2015. Since then, Sony has not produced a big time game, So this is like for third parties, right? This is for all the mature novels or graphic novels or whatever is still coming out for the Vita, is to say, okay, get your stuff out. We're not gonna produce these game cards anymore. Because the platform's still gonna exist, right? I mean, one of the other things that Sony did, so they haven't published a new game, right? So what is it called? What is that game called?
I don't know what you're talking about. I was about to ask you, what are you on about?
It's the game, just so we can clarify for the people out there, for the folks. It's the game that you have a death sentence and you start off the game where it's like, okay, you have 900 years.
Freedom Wars or something like that.
So Freedom Wars was their last like published game. Was that 2014 or 2015?
Probably 2014. It was an old
game. So that was its last like Sony published. This is our last attempt at this thing, which was 3 years into the console. That Vita destroyed a whole bunch of companies too, man, which is unfortunate. Because there was companies like
you made me spit out my water. Like they destroyed.
Well, because they destroyed Zipper. I don't know if you remember SOCOM, which they had a really, Colin Moriarty did a good video, so you guys can go check that out. But he talked about how Zipper was destroyed, how the guys that did the first little game that came out on the Vita where you could tap on the back of the console, Little Deviants, I believe. So that got destroyed. Like it destroyed a whole bunch of companies, man, and left disaster in its wake. But this is definitely like the last, like, hey, get your mature graphic novels out while you still can. And limited run, they said, because it's not official, right? This is sort of like a leak that happened, but it's pretty much, it's gonna happen, man. At this point, they're just saying like February 15, get your orders out. And limited run can be like, well, we still got a whole bunch of games coming. I was like, well, of course you do. You still got till February 15 to get those going. So, but you know what? I'm gonna miss the Vita, but it was like exactly like you were saying. We have the Switch, man. That's really what. So the Vita was already dead, and then the Switch came out, and it was a big success, and it just stomped all over its already dead carcass. It was like, you will never come back. You will never come back. So I still got my Vita. I still got some stuff to play on it whenever I decide to go back to it. But yeah, it's done. It's done for RIP Vita.
RIP Vita. That's a great way to end the career of the Vita. So good job with that, Carlos.
Are you gonna miss it, Dalan?
Am I gonna miss the Vita? I rarely play it as it is. The only reason I'm even messing with it now is because I had planned on hacking it, but it's kind of hard to actually make it go back to.
They haven't cracked it. They haven't.
No, they did. They cracked one of the older firmwares.
Yeah,
that's what it was. And I showed it to you. I ended up getting one of these little cards. Well, it's not in my Vita.
You're talking about some battery or some nonsense like that you threw.
No, it's not a battery. It's an adaptive card that you put on top. And you could put a micro USB card in there.
If Sony wanted to have kept that platform alive, at least on the hardware perspective, they should have just opened it up, man. It's like, go ahead, do whatever you want on this Vita. It would have sold like 2 or 3 million. They would have had to. They would have had to have started the machines up that they shut down again to get those going again.
But the fact being is that I would use it to actually put on some of the older games that I'm probably not going to play on my PS3 or PS4 anymore. So I was probably going to put a bunch of PS1 games on that thing and buy one of their Vita cards.
At some point we'll have to like hold a vigil or something for the Vita. I think this might be the last time we talk about it, Dylan. I don't know. We'll see.
No, I'm sure we'll end up talking about it at least one more time when they stop service.
We will probably might quite possibly talk about, because Curse of the Moon, man, I switched my Kickstarter thing to the Vita version, so maybe I got something to say on that. We'll see when that.
There you go. That's gonna be a recent conversation. All right, I'll let me know how that goes. All right, so I'm going to actually move on to the next subject unless you have anything else you wanted to say.
No, that's it, man. Go ahead. What's next?
Talking about the Vita had a stroke. But anyways, the thing that I have on my list, 10 points, we wanted to talk about Kingdom Hearts 3. I think we talked about it once when the trailer originally dropped, and in this case it got its own hot buzz again because right now E3 is of course coming up, and they decided to have their premiere very recently, and they allowed people to play a couple of levels. So they were like good 10-15 minute levels, and they actually got a really good idea of what these levels were like. I don't know if you had a chance to actually watch any of those videos, Carlos, but they actually showed the actual gameplay, let people actually feel it happening. They went to the Toy Story world. They ended up going into the store. They were crawling through the vents. They went to an arcade room where they basically jumped into gigantic Gundams, and I thought that was awesome. They went to some bedroom. I assume that was the Andy's bedroom. But Wreck-It Ralph got summoned. The Little Mermaid got summoned. They were on the street, and that place was wide open. I mean, they ran all the way down the street. They might as well have ran all the way down the street. It was very open because all the other Kingdom Hearts games, every time you had a level, it was this small area, and you knew you were going to get to the next section at some point. There was only one level in all of Kingdom Hearts 2 where it was actually wide open, and it was basically just a desert and a battlefield with a bunch of enemies.
But it's kind of like, and we've been playing the Destiny 2 Warmind expansion, right? It's kind of like they were very good at making it seem like it was bigger than it was, but it was basically just a corridor, right? There was really just one way to go about it, and then to get to the end point.
And I kept telling you that. I was like, there's only one way to go, Carlos. And you were sitting there like, wait, what are you talking about? You kept going left and right.
This is talking about the right side of the elevator. It's like, well, yeah, there's an elevator, but it's just one side. I don't know why it's telling you it's the right side versus the left side. There's really only one side. But I did see some of the stuff. I did see some of the stuff coming out of it, man, and it's awesome. But they didn't reconfirm. The big news to me would have been like, did they reconfirm that it's coming out 2018? Did they?
No, they did not reconfirm that. As a matter of fact, they just ended up giving us more stuff that the game is going to have. They did actually say that there's going to be a specific time frame between now and the early next year. So hopefully they'll still be able to do it this year because they were able to give these full demo levels for people to be able to play. Because that's a good half a year.
No, I mean, it's getting really closer. It's getting closer. I mean, it's getting closer to being out. I still stand by my prediction. It's not gonna be out this year. Otherwise, they would have given us a date, man. They would have given us in October. They would have given us a fall 2018. I think based on how much they've shown, and it looks awesome. It looks amazing. I was just actually playing Kingdom Hearts 2 with my daughter, and I was like, wow. No, she actually sort of got into it. I think it takes a while. Those games take a while to get going, man. I mean, they give you a 15-minute intro cutscene. It's beautiful. It's nice, but it takes forever to kind of get going. It's dated. Those games are dated. Then you go back to it was like, oh wow, okay, yeah. This new one looks amazing. It looks more fluid. They got new characters. You know, like you were mentioning, Wreck-It Ralph, the Little Mermaid, all this kind of stuff. So
you can summon the Disney train. You're riding the Disney train. That was actually one of the things that I was actually kind of excited about.
Which is kind of like breaking the fourth wall that had already broken, right? When they mix all these worlds together, right? It's kind of like, wait, this is on Main Street. This is the Main Street Parade that now I can ride that train now. So it looks awesome. It looks cool, man. I'm just waiting out till I can play it at this point. I'm kind of like, don't show me anymore. I'm fine. Just let me wait till it comes out. But I'm sure next year. I'm pretty sure next year we'll see it. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm holding out for this year. I assume you're holding out for the beginning of next year.
Well, you will be sorely disappointed, sir.
I won't be disappointed because I fully expect them to actually push that back. But one last thing I actually wanted to mention about it, or at least about the demos, is they did the Olympus World one. And that one was actually really cool because they showed this whole scene where he has to run up the wall to actually go fight the Titan. Spoiler alert, sorry, too late on that one. But he was running up the wall to actually go fight the Titan. And he was doing all kind of Final Fantasy jumps. He was basically a miniature Cloud running up the side of the building, busting rocks, trying to get to the Titan. And I was thinking to myself, man, this game is beautiful, action-packed. It looks like it's going to be a whole buttload of fun.
And just to dampen your expectations and your hopes a little bit, this is going to get closer to release, and they're still working on it. The more they kind of continue to polish this, and I hope it's an incredible game, so keep on polishing it, the more Final Fantasy Remaster gets pushed, the more it gets sent down, the more the end goal, the end post gets pushed.
I understand that a lot of the creators for Kingdom Hearts is also working on the new Final Fantasy.
Yeah. So
but hey, remember they hired a new team just so they could split that focus just a little bit more.
just so it gets released further into 2022, into the next console cycle.
Anyways, what's next on our list?
The next thing this one affects me personally, Dalan, with 10 points. The Best Buy and Gamers Club unlocked. Apparently, Best Buy is ending its gamer rewards program effective immediately, which is as reported by Wario64 on Twitter. If you're currently a member, you'll continue to be able to use your benefits until your membership expires, but it cannot be renewed. So, that 20% off new games, that's one of the key reasons that I got it. And this is according to a memo obtained by Wario64. This guy is on it, man. He just does deals, but he's like a little mini journalist out there, man. He don't mess around. So this is on a memo he found for Wario64, which is, I guess, sent out to employees. It says, quote, "For a variety of reasons, we have decided that our Gamers Club programs will not be accepting new members. This afternoon, POS will point of sale, I'm guessing. Don't think of anything else. Will stop prompting for enrollment, and employees should no longer offer Gamers Club Unlocked to new customers." So, I mean, I know you don't use it, and I don't think you use any 20% or any deal type of thing off, but I don't know. Will you miss it, Dalan? Or were you ever considering buying into this thing? It was $30 for 2 years, man. I think it pays for itself over those 2 years.
I actually did think about getting it at one point, but then I was like, nah.
Well, now you can.
No, it's the fact that I didn't really go to Best Buy too often because they didn't have the type of things that I would normally buy.
Dalan,
on top of that, I can still find things cheaper currently, because you Best Buy, but on Amazon.
Dalan, how about this? Would rather not ever go to Best Buy. This is one of the only reasons I would ever go to Best Buy, was the fact that I could get 20% off of games. And I mean, Amazon used to do, they had sort of a deal for Amazon Prime where you could get 20% off like within 2 weeks of games releasing. Now, they were like, they reverted back to like, oh, well, you only get 20% off for pre-orders, meaning you want my cash before the reviews are out. And I'm just not down with that. So it's unfortunate that, Best Buy was allowing this, because Best Buy, there was no limit. As long as you were buying a new copy, you get 20% off. So, and I was able to get it for the Labo and a whole bunch of games, like God of War. So now, I mean, what this turns into, if I can't get any 20% off, Dalan, I'm still going to wait for a review, but I don't know, man. I might go back to GameStop and give it to me.
How much you hate GameStop, but GameStop is still kind of your friend.
I mean, they might just have to. Well, I think I just renewed this thing like 3 months ago. So GameStop will be my friend, and what is it? We're 2018 till 2020 or middle of 2020. If Best Buy makes it that long, to be honest, man, I'm just like, this is a store from a time past. I don't know if this is. Am I even in the real world? I don't think the store will exist within the next.
No, the thing is that Best Buy sells larger appliances and TVs, and they still have their sales.
Well, they've been pivoting, right? And that's that's really what smart companies, or supposedly smart companies do.
Yeah,
I mean, even
they have whole booths of where they sell brand new phones, and they still sell them through other phone companies. They got all the brand new computers, computer parts. They got the Geek Squad. I mean, they have things going for them. It's just the gaming aspect of it, not so much. I mean, they even sell anime there, and people would go there for their anime.
Well, and I know they're getting rid of their CD collection, so they gotta make room for more refrigerators, man. So that's gonna happen. So yeah, smart companies do this, man. They gotta pivot. They gotta figure out a way to do it. I mean, even GameStop, your favorite store, Dalan, they pivoted in recent times. I don't know if you noticed, but they have like more Monopoly boards, or like Zelda games and plushes and all these physical objects that you can't just go onto your PlayStation or onto Steam and digitally download that stuff. So all these companies are finding ways to stay alive.
Yeah, they merged with ThinkGeek.com, but that's fine.
So we'll see. We'll see if I can still get these rewards up to 2020. It might already be shut down, man. But I'll keep enjoying it while I can. But I don't expect it to survive for too long.
So next thing we actually have on our list is we actually watched it. We watched the pre-trailer, or at least the teaser that came out, and then we watched the actual trailer for 9 points at this point. It's 9 points on my list. Rage 2 gameplay trailer. Of course, after the little Walmart debacle of showing up on the list, debacle is, I guess, I don't know what I want to call
placeholders. You could call them placeholders, right?
No, I mean like the leak, the so-called leak. I don't feel like it was leaked. They did that on purpose. Now, the fact being is, I watched this trailer, and I was actually kind of excited to try and play this game, because I watched the Mad Max trailer and played some Mad Max game. I was like, this is basically a boring Batman. Yeah, I played.
It's a decent game, man. It wasn't an incredible game, but it was a decent game actually. I think it was. Did Sony give it to us for free recently, or was it super cheap recently?
I think they gave it to us for free.
Yeah, go ahead and mess with it, man. It's a decent little game. But
then there's then Arkham Knight dropped at the same time. But this game looked like a mixture between, or at least to me, it looked like a mixture between Borderlands and Mad Max, a good version of Mad Max, plus a bunch of neon lights and paint.
yeah. Very, very neonish, very bright colors. Yeah, I saw some of the gameplay trailer. It looks pretty cool, man. The teaser trailer seemed annoying to me, but now that I see the actual gameplay trailer, it looks pretty cool. It looks like they were saying open world. It looks like, I mean, it looks incredible. I hope the actual game looks as good as it does in the gameplay trailer, because it looks pretty awesome. The original one did not look that good, like man. And it looked very boring. It looked very sparse, and this one looks pretty good. And like I said, it, you know, last time I was saying it's basically Far Cry, but you know, their version of it, its version of it. But I don't know. It looks a little different. It looks a little more action packed.
Yeah, it's their version of Borderlands. I saw parts where they were juggling people on bullets. They were blowing up all kinds of cars, and those Mad Max cars looked like they might have had meat bags somewhere in there. But if you didn't watch the what was it, Fury Road? If you didn't watch Fury Road, you won't get that.
Yeah, you won't get all that. It's a good day. It's a wonderful day. What's the phrase, Dalan? They say
it's a lovely day.
And then they go for Valhalla, right? Yeah, that was a good movie, man. I love that movie, and I don't know if I mentioned this before. I kind of have a man crush on Tom Hardy. So anything Tom Hardy's in, I gotta mess with. But yeah, Race 2 looks pretty good, man. I think when is it gonna be out? Next year, or did you see a date anywhere on the trailer?
I'm gonna say next eventually, and hopefully soon.
I doubt it's out this year. I don't think I saw 2018.
No, it's not. I doubt it's going to be out this year. But their announcement was definitely awesome. I'm sure it's going to be out early 2019 or mid 2019.
You know what? This is one of the things that I'm wondering, man. The more things are coming out, because E3 is now, what is it? About 2 weeks away now, man. It's like E3 is going to be not announcement. It's going to be delayed to 2019, delayed to 2019, delayed to 2019. Like our next one, Dalan, with 8 points. Shenmue 3 delayed again. So Shenmue 1 and Shenmue 2 re-releases will get their time to shine later this year. So I hope those don't get delayed. I mean, they are just ports of, what is it, 15, 16, 17-year-old games at this point. But Shenmue 3 has been delayed into 2019. The publisher Deep Silver said on their website, quote, "The extra time will be used to polish the quality of the game even further to the high standards it deserves and release the product in the best possible time frame." So, it's basically saying, right, like it's like, we just need a little bit more time, and then we're going to strategize when to release it, right? Basically, don't release it at the time of March 2019 would be the worst time to release it,
because that's when all these new games that people are waiting for are going to start dropping.
Man, March, it's March, and now it's the fall in March, man. Those are the big times. I think March, I don't know if we talked about it before, but a lot of the fiscal years happen to end in March, so they're trying to get those games out so they can have positive, for their stockholders and everything. Look, we just sold 3 million copies of this game. Look how our revenues shot up. It's like, well, yeah, because you released this game about a week before your revenue or your statements you have to make. But you know what? I just hope this game is good, man. At this point, they could delay it another 2 years because, I know they've shown like milestones to it. And, I should say that I am a Kickstarter, a backer of Shenmue 3. At this point, it's like, I just want my $60 to be worth something. I just hope make something good. And now they have the publisher Deep Silver that's working with them. And, Sony was kind of behind them for a bit, especially in their initial announcement. So they delayed it to 2019. I hope it comes out good, man. And I based on what I've seen, it doesn't look too exciting, but we'll see.
Well, I know exactly what you want. You want that forklift action. That's what you want. You want to be able to enjoy some forklift driving.
Yes.
But
in a previous life, I did forklifting, so I don't know. Maybe I miss it. Maybe I miss it a little bit. I don't know.
Do you think it's actually even set around the same era as like parts 1 and 2?
Well, no, it's a direct sequel to 2, which, if I remember correctly, so there was one that was actually set mostly in Japan, and then for 2 they actually moved to China. So it's still on his Rio's journey to find the man. Did you see a man with the black car today? And it's like, so it's still on his journey to find out who killed his father. Yeah, so it's the cheesiest story, but you know, I hope, hey, I hope for the best with Yu Suzuki, and I hope he gets to. It was sort of charming in a weird kind of way. It was like this was GTA before GTA, right? This was like what open worlds were, and they spend so much time on all the little minutia of all the little buttons and everything that they're like, look at everything that we put into this world. It's not fun. It's very mundane and very boring, but this is life. Don't you want to play life? So I think they kind of actioned it up a little bit for the sequel, and I'm hoping 3 is good, man. I just, my expectations are a sort of like medium. There from 1 to 10, my expectations are maybe like a 5.5. So as long as they can meet those expectations, I'll be good.
Well, when you talk about people trying to actually enjoy real life in this video game, you actually made me think of Yakuza and Persona.
Oh, those are good. Those are good. Don't be talking about Yakuza as if they're mundane. Those are good games.
No, I'm not calling them mundane. I'm talking about the fact that they ended up putting a bunch of cultural references into these games. And Shenmue was like one of the first ones to do it because they packed so much stuff into it. It wasn't as large or as, I can't say as accurate as Yakuza is, but I mean, it still actually showed a lot of that aspect of probably living in that type of rural part of Japan, or at least to start out with. And then going to China and showing a lot of China the way that that's actually portrayed. I don't think they had a lot of those type of side mini games.
I'm excited. I'm kind of looking forward to even playing the re-release later this year, man, because I never really beat the second one. I know I had it for Xbox, but I just never beat it. But apparently it's one of the few representations of like for the Forgotten City or something like that, or the Forbidden City in China or something like that, where they were actually like, let's recreate the city where nobody has ever really been. And I don't know if they had access to it or anything like that, but they focused on it, right? Like they're like, let's do this. So I'm actually excited.
And there are actually people that actually ended up having access to it and taking pictures of it.
Yeah. But it's crazy though. But it's crazy if you look at kind of like the history. If you guys look it up, I'm not sure if it's the Forbidden City or something like that in China. But if you guys look it up, it's kind of crazy where it's like its own little world and it's in the real world. So it's like all these crazy things, and it's awesome that Shenmue 2 kind of shown whatever the word is, shown a light on it and you know, represented that. So you know, hopefully they keep that up with 3. If it even gets to if it's even like half the game that a Yakuza game is, I'll be happy, Dylan. How about that? I'll be good, because the Yakuza games, like we've said before, are really the spiritual successors to Shenmue and much better. And you know, they were actually good games and fun. Well, we'll see when this one comes out.
I appreciate your love note to Yakuza, since I brought that up. Now, that being said, we'll move on to our next character, being at 8 points, Okami HD. Coming out for the Switch. They actually now have announced a release date, going to be August 9th. So that's actually an awesome thing that's going to be happening because, well, I beat Okami. Did you actually beat Okami, Carlos?
Yes, all of it's 30 hours. Can't skip the text. I just died for the 5th time. I can't even really. I think you could speed up the text a little bit, but you definitely couldn't skip it. So yes, Dylan, I beat Okami. All of it. 30 plus annoying text.
Well, apparently the most frustrating part for you was the texts, and I'll admit, trying to have to go through the whole game again if you just recently or fresh.
It was a great game. Other than that, it was a great game, though. But now, a beautiful game.
But now they even made it even better. I mean, on the Wii, when it got released, you could use your Wiimote to actually draw stuff. Now, when it's coming out on the Switch, they give you the touch controls and the Joy-Con motions to be able to draw stuff and make it easier to be able to paint on that screen. Because I know a lot of people had issues with trying to use the joysticks to be able to draw stuff. I mean, for myself, being a gamer, I was used to things like that. But for people that didn't really play games all the time and they loved the heck out of Okami, it was a weird thing for them to try and actually do fluid motions with the joystick. But even aside from that, fact is it's coming out August 9th, so that's later this year. So far, it's basically like the same version that's coming out for the PS4 and Xbox and PC. But the thing that actually got me is that they're only recently releasing a physical copy in Japan. I don't understand why they would actually do that when they know that Okami still
It's not
sells
gonna
well.
sell, man. It's not gonna sell that much. In Japan, it'll sell because it has a lot of Japanese lore, and I think people are more attracted. It's just different markets, but they base it on. It came out on PS4, right? The remaster came out on PS4 and on Xbox, and I think that has a lot to do with it, right? They're like, we only sold 200,000 copies of this remaster. People are not gonna buy a physical version of it on the Switch, right? So we'll throw it on the Switch, be happy with that, and I'm sorry to say that this did not make my list, so it was pretty high up on your list. So I'm kind of like, much ado about nothing. If I would care to play this 30-hour game again, with its I can't skip the text, I would have already bought it on PS4, which has been on sale. It's been on sale for like once a week for the last like 3 months. So if you really want it, you can get it on the cheap. So it comes down to that, right? If it bothers you that there's no physical copy, I mean, it's got to be able to sell, right? They got to have some metrics. I mean, it might sell, but if it only sells 10 copies, they're kind of like, well, why did we do this limited run? And
well, it wasn't only me. I know a couple of people that actually wanted to hear.
But a couple of people aren't the mass.
No, it's not the mass
that they need to justify.
I myself was still kind of interested in it simply because now you have Okami on the go. If you have Zelda on the go, if they remastered Zelda and re-released that on the Switch, people will go and buy it.
Yeah, I mean, that is one of the cool things, right? It's going to be the first time you get to play the game on the go. But guess what, Dalan? You can digitally download it and still have it on the go. They're not going to not give it to you in America. They're just not going to give you a physical copy.
Yeah, well, you can pre-order it in the eShop at least later this summer. So.
I got you. I expect you to buy it full price, no sell, no nothing. You're gonna be there pre-sell everything, then.
I'm gonna be at your house asking you for your 20% discount from Best Buy. We're gonna go do it.
There's no physical copies.
Let's go.
I only get 20% on physical copies, man. I can't get you on the digital. As next up, Next up, and we're sort of alluding to this earlier, right? But with 6 points, it's going to be apparently Anthem versus Division 2 early next year. According to Ubisoft's earnings call, it looks like Division 2 will release by the end of March 2019, which is also the same time frame for Anthem, as we've heard before. So that makes it a busy month for the two share world shooters, right? Division 2 will be a known entity, and while Anthem will be a completely new franchise. I don't know. What do you see happening, Dalan? Which one wins out in this equation? If Division 2 versus Anthem, March 2019, which one wins out?
This is one of those statements of how you like to say, what's the next Destiny? In this case, for these people, it's what's the next Division? Is it Division 2? Are these Division people actually going to jump over to Division and enjoy Division 2 and actually continue their fan base for it? Or are they going to move over to Anthem and enjoy Anthem more? I guess that just depends on how good they build Anthem. I mean, they ended up pushing it back because their original expectations were unrealistic. So at this point, it just comes down to how well Anthem can actually roll out their game. And so far, Anthem has had a couple of their own little issues. So hopefully Anthem can actually get their game off the ground.
What are the issues? What issues have they had?
Part of it was
my memory, I guess.
Refresh my memory. One of the issues being they couldn't for a minute there. They had a problem with funding in their development, but they ended up getting that through. So yeah, there was actually a problem. Yeah, there was actually a problem with that.
Okay. Wow. What do you mean? They've been funded. What are you talking about? There was no problem. I mean, they pushed it because they wanted to keep it going. I never heard about no funding problem. Give me something real, Dan. I want to believe you. I want to believe you. Yes, Anthem has had its internal issues. I don't know if it's ever been a funding. They want this out. They want to.
They do want it out.
And it's Activision, or is it EA? It's EA, right? So it's EA wants a taste of that share world experience, and Division 2 is a Ubisoft one, so they all want a taste of that Destiny juice, right? Honestly, I can see Division 2 losing out, man. I just don't. it did have some traction when Division 1 came out, and we played it. But you got to remember, Division 1 came out like in March too, right? Nothing else really was competing for its attention. It definitely wasn't Destiny. So this time around, I think there's a little bit more momentum out of Anthem so far, right? We don't know. Maybe at the end of this year, Division 2, Ubisoft comes out like, look, this is the awesome stuff that we're doing. And it changes our mind then at the end of the year. But so far, I think Anthem just looks incredible, man. It looks new. And I think the fact that Division 2 is a known entity, we're kind of like, well, yeah, we kind of know what it is. You guys didn't give us any raids. You guys didn't really give us the best end game content, really. You guys gave us some experiences. And I know, I think I brought this example up before, Dan, but even when I wanted to play with you guys again, it's like, all right, let me play. Let me get that new loot. It's like, okay, let's drop all our high loot that we don't need anymore. And I maxed out within 2 minutes. So, which is like one of the good things and the bad things, right? I think they can make that work, right? Where your friends can kind of drop weapons and, you can they help you level so you can get invested into the game. But I definitely think Division 2 might actually lose out on this one, man. Because Anthem, if you look at anything, the way they talk about it, and of course, it's just talk until we get our hands on the controller, right, and actually play it. But for me, it's really going to be Anthem and then Division 2 if it's still around by the time I'm done with Anthem, which I hope is my next Destiny.
Well, Carlos, Anthem is Lost Planet, the MMO.
Oh man, that actually kind of makes me less hype for it. So you shouldn't say things like that.
You make me sad.
You make me sad, but I don't know, man. That being said, Dalan, what do you think? Anthem or Division 2 wins out as far as building a community? What do you think?
Okay, so as far as building a community and whether or not they'll actually be able to keep their fan base, the fact is Division has that issue where it goes stale real fast. I know Destiny had their own issue like that, and they're trying their best to actually upkeep the things going. Division is now regularly dropping updates for people to actually go in, have many activities that they could try to actually do. But I don't know if they'll actually be able to keep up that steam and keep people really invested like that.
Well,
so with Anthem coming out, it's going to be this whole brand new thing that is basically, hey, invest in us. We're going to give you all kinds of stuff to do. And if Anthem gives you a raid, we're going to be there.
We will be there. We will be. Yeah,
we're going to be there.
Yeah, it is definitely. So far, I think for now, how things are looking, and of course, we haven't really seen too much of Division, right? Division 2. So right now, I mean, I think the momentum is definitely high on Anthem, and it's up to Ubisoft later this year to be like, look, we're punching Anthem in the mouth. This is the game you want. March before our fiscal results are out and we can show positive upticks or whatever, So, but I'm looking forward to that, man. We'll see. I think
I've been looking forward to it.
The only thing is we will have to make a decision, right? Even if it's not just spending 60, 120 for both of them, it's well, I know you see it that way, right? You're like, I'm only gonna spend $60 on one or the other. But I think a lot of it's gonna be time, right? It's like, well, if these are shared world shooters or whatever they're supposed to be, we're gonna have to dedicate time to them. So which one do we dedicate time to? So we'll see. We'll see next year. I'm looking forward to Anthem though.
Yeah, I'm actually looking for the Anthem just to actually try it, if anything. But anyways, do you have anything else to say about Anthem?
No, that's it. Go ahead, man. So what's our last thing before we have our little plus ones, one more things, and then
all right, last thing, and I'll make it pretty quick, simply because it was actually a smaller thing, but I thought it was an awesome thing. And I'm going to do a shout out to Jeremy Lowe because it was one of his favorite games, being Final Fantasy Tactics Part 2 was a real thing. Because the Final Fantasy Tactics director, Yasumi Matsuno, if I'm saying Japanese names incorrectly, I'm sorry. But Mr. Matsuno got together with his former Tactics developers recently and did a live stream commentary, and they were discussing games that they were working on. And one of the surprises that came up was that they shared actual pictures for the sequel for Final Fantasy Tactics, and they actually had small development plans for it. But problem being is that there was confusion over what direction that the game was going to go, what type of art they should specifically use. They had some internal discussions on whether or not to actually outsource the work itself. And I guess it just became this stalemate of whether or not they were going to go with it. And ultimately, Square Enix decided, hey, we're going to bench this project. Let's move on to something else. And Matsuno ended up moving over to Final Fantasy 14 and doing the expansion for Return to Evil East with Stormblood. So that was actually a good, extra thing that he did. But I'm wondering, even with the prototype pictures that they had online, and I'm sure people could go and look for them and find them very easily. Carlos, would you be excited if they actually made a Final Fantasy Tactics 2 game today with our current graphics and our models for a tactics game?
I don't want to dismiss the whole topic, Dalan, but it's like, I couldn't care less. I'm sorry. I just couldn't care less.
Like, you really hate some tactics games.
Well, it's not that I hate it. It's just I've never gotten down with. The closest to tactic games was Mario and Rabbids last year, man. And that's like tactics like on baby mode, right? So it's kind of like they've just never interested me. Even the Final Fantasy games are kind of like I have to really kind of get into it. I got to be interested and I got to be locked in. Otherwise I get distracted. So, I mean, it would look awesome, right? The last one was cute and everything. So I don't know. I think they would get down with sort of a similar art style, man. I think they would get down with this. That's as far as I can speak of the game, because the game I didn't really play too much of it, if any. Actually, I don't think I've ever messed with it. But they did do a tactics. Was it not Let Us Cling Together? That was a tactics game, right? Final Fantasy Let Us Cling Together or something like that. It had the dumb. It had some dumb name. What was that? That wasn't a tactics game?
No, the last one that I could actually think of was on the PSP. That was really a Final Fantasy Tactics game. It was the Lion something. I can't remember exactly what it's called. But it was basically Final Fantasy Tactics remade in a 2.5D type thing. But
yeah,
what
so
I want
like
to see
I said,
is like a full-on 3D Final Fantasy Tactics game, like go Fire Emblem with it. That'd be awesome for the tactics game like this. Or even for me, I'd love to see it go the way of Valkyria Chronicles, not 2 or 3, just part 1. And there was, as long as it stays away from whatever that formula was for. Man, there was a tactics game I recently saw. Oh, wasn't even tactics. What are those Heroes? I hope they stay away from Heroes. Final Fantasy Tactics Heroes. That'd be terrible.
Well, I hope you were able to get that off your chest, and honestly,
for that last part, that was sort of getting that off my chest. That's it's a niche, genre. I think that's what it is. So I don't think you can hope to have the most incredible production values, but you can expect a decent, nice looking game, and just be happy with it and be ready to have a digital download and not a physical copy of it. So one more thing, this was kind of late breaking, and I think this is what I'm going to be doing. It's up to you what you do with your +1, Dalan, whatever you're going to make your list. But for me, I think this is going to be some late breaking Monday news type of thing. And this just came out recently that Resident Evil 7 will be coming to the Switch, but it's going to be via the cloud. So Capcom announced today that Resident Evil 7 will be making it to the Switch via the cloud May 24, 2018, and it's going to release in Japan only for now. So the Resident Evil 7 cloud version will be the equivalent of about $18 US. It's going to be a 45 megabyte download, but it will require a constant internet connection. So it's basically, they're doing OnLive, they're doing kind of PlayStation Now. They're basically streaming Resident Evil 7 to your Switch is what they're doing with this. But I don't know. Do you feel like this is one way to circumvent the Switch's lack of firepower? And do you want to see them going forward in this direction, kind of streaming games to your Switch? Honestly, there are actually certain games where I'd figured that once they actually do this, if this succeeds, there are going to be a lot of other big budget games or AAA games with high graphics that would be streamed through the Switch if that's the case. I mean, for Resident Evil 7, I didn't get too deep into it. I only really played the demos, and I played part of the actual game. I know everybody keeps saying,
well, hey, but not even specific to Resident Evil 7, right? Just the fact that to me, it's not even about Resident Evil 7. It's just that they're introducing this technology when Nintendo can't even get online right now, and they're like, we're gonna stream games, something that Sony hasn't been able to do, and something that Microsoft wasn't able to do with their Gaikai service that just never really came to fruition. And they went into the Game Pass and like, just download the game. We're not streaming anything. Just download these games. So it's kind of interesting to see. The thing is, there's a lot of lag, man. Even as fast as your connection can be, there's still, you're running a game through the internet, and I mean, it is sort of, the equivalent of $18. If it were to come out here, it'd probably be around $20 to play this version of the game. And I don't know if it's, I mean, it's sort of an older game at this point, but it still seems like a discount, and maybe it's sort of a discount because they're like, well, you're streaming a PC version of this game to your Switch.
You're streaming a PC version of a horror game to your Switch, that you're going to have this horror-riddled video game in your face, possibly middle of the night, and you're going to be trying to play it with all these choppy skip graphics and stuff like that, dropping frames. And you're going to try and turn, and suddenly a monster's going to appear in your face, and you're going to scream your head off. And Carlos, I can kind of envision you doing this.
I did it in VR, man. It was pretty scary. But, it's interesting going forward to see what Nintendo does with this. And, maybe it is successful, and maybe we see test runs where, like, this thing works perfect. It works just as smooth. But I think there's just always going to be that sort of lag, man. I mean, if you're streaming a big file, it's like you're streaming. I mean, it's for 45 megabyte download, meaning you're just downloading the client, man. You're just downloading the client, and it's either a PC version. I would think they're using a PC version of the game, right? They're not going to try to get mixed up into the PS4 version and Xbox version. They're like, no. It's a PC version that's streaming to your Switch. So we'll see. I mean, I mean, just the Switch is such a runaway success that this is one of the cool things that people are willing to just try whatever, right? They're like, sure, we're gonna try streaming games to your Switch there. We'll give that a shot. So, I mean, maybe it comes out and it's good and it's interesting, but
well, considering that I think Nintendo said that they weren't gonna really focus on newer hardware. They're just going to focus, I guess, on software and additional attachments that would go to it.
Yeah, maybe this is what they're referring to, right? They're like, we have the power of the cloud now. Don't even
power of the cloud.
Don't even trip. We got you. Don't worry about a new Switch. We got you. So, yeah, I just want to throw that out as my last thing, Dylan. And what about you? What's the last thing you want to throw in here?
The last thing I want to throw in here is, I'm just going to say Sonic Mania Plus, because I know that game is actually going to be dropping soon. I recently talked about that one of my episodes. But with Sonic Mania Plus coming out back in March, I guess Sega decided to actually get with the company Puma for their clothing and decided we're going to make some shoes or some sneakers. And they finally announced the release date for these sneakers and showed pictures of them. And I thought that was kind of awesome. So if people go and look for the Puma Sega RS0 Sonic or the Dr. Eggman's sneakers, they got their own code names. I thought that was awesome. Both sets individually are $130. So that's a fair little chunk of change. But hey, they're Puma shoes, and they're very new, brand new sneakers. The Sonic ones are going to be with blue suede texture across the top. They're going to have, I guess they're supposed to represent Sonic's fur. They have the red soles, which are supposed to actually represent his shoes. They have like these striped pixelated things around the sides of them. One's green, one's yellow to actually show, like, if anybody remembers the Green Hill Zone, it's actually a good representation of that. The Dr. Eggman shoes made of red leather. And I thought they were pretty shiny, but they're supposed to be a color of his signature jacket, yellow stripes around it, yellow caution stripes. I need to be specific with that. Like Dr. Eggman's, his Eggmobile. And it'll actually come with little tiny rings on the shoelaces, like in the Sonic game. So I thought that was actually kind of cool. And I was thinking to myself, should I get these Sonic shoes? Should I ball up in these? You want to be like, Dalan looks ridiculous. Let me talk about his shoes.
I want to see you drop 130 on these pairs of shoes, man. I'm down to see this. But they look all right. They look interesting. I mean, I'm not the biggest sneakerhead. I mean, as far as my shoe collection is, I buy the same pair of black Nikes, Air Jordans every time I could get them for cheap. So that's as far as my collection. But it's kind of cool, man. It's kind of cool that you get this mixture of worlds with Sonic. And I don't know, I kind of like maybe I like the Sonic ones a little bit better, but the red ones are maybe they're a little cleaner
I figured you'd be leaning towards the Eggman ones because I've seen your shoes.
Yeah. Well, those are my basketball shoes, Dalan. They gotta be
well,
outrageous.
That's what I'm talking about.
They gotta be candy apple or whatever.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. You can enjoy some good balling action with some good Eggman sneakers. Talking about you're flying on your little Eggman jet. Go do it, Carlos. Eventually,
the Eggman ones look appropriately ridiculous, man. They look appropriately ridiculous. So they both look pretty foolish, but they threw in the both aspects, and they're not at all like subtle. It's not subtle at all, but it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool that they got these shoes together.
Well, with this, I actually want to do a little extra drop because I brought up Sonic Plus for a reason, Sonic Mania Plus. Earlier today, I found out that there were little episodes. Apparently, they've been getting watched like crazy over the past few days. These little 3-minute episodes of Sonic Mania Adventures. You should watch those. There's only like 2 episodes right now, but I know there's going to be more the way that they
Wait, why do you say they're being watched like crazy? Explain yourself.
Because they have
like millions of views.
Yeah, they have a couple of million views for both these videos already, and it's only been a couple of days. Nobody says anything.
Nobody. But you said something. You said something. So
no,
that's
no. I mean, in the 3-minute episodes, nobody talks. It's just like noises and sound effects that actually gets the point across of what Sonic is. I could watch a whole 30-minute episode.
And you could say the same for Salient Points. There's just a bunch of noises. That was it for Salient Points. Salient Points number 32. I'm your host again, called Macias. You can find me on Twitter at Carlos. At Aduce Clean. At Aduce Clean on Twitter. Dalan, where can the good people find you?
I'm sorry, did I confuse you for a moment?
What can the good people find you?
Peanuts? The good people can find me they can find me on Twitter at _Zation_, or they can find me at YouTube at Cloud Neftis 2. So you can find me there as well. So I'm actually, as an announcement, I'm going to actually put this out here. If anybody's been to my channel, they know that I make music videos. I've actually been working on a new one.
Okay, we're going to get a new Dalan release?
You're gonna get a new Dalan release. I'm gonna actually work on that. I'm gonna get back to you.
You got a release date or what? You gotta set yourself some goals, man. So it needs to be up by this date.
What I'm actually aiming for is this coming weekend. I'm actually gonna try to get one up. Get it up by this weekend.
It's basically it's mashups, right? Mashups of music and anime videos and Dragon Ball Z, right?
Well, it's not always anime. I could do some live action as well. And just to drop it in there, I'm doing a mashup of Mission Impossible in this case.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it. And also I just want to throw this in here. RIP the front end of my car, Dalan. I gotta fix that.
RIP the beat as well.
Oh man, that's gonna be expensive. I guess I have a deductible or something, but whew.
You're on your own.
Yeah, so this distracted me for a little good while. So thank you very much, Dalan.
All right.
Hey, don't